In a mundane suburb, John Harris' life takes a turn when he meets Tnie, a stunning alien with emerald eyes from planet Eliza. As their worlds collide, John faces the thrill of the extraordinary and the confines of his dull existence. Will he abandon his comfort for love, even if it challenges his deepest values and beliefs? If you dream of entering universes or planets where humans shine when they meet unknown races, subscribe, turn on notifications, and you will be happy every day with new wonderful sci-fi stories. Well, let's go. The suburban neighborhood lay cloaked in the dull hues of early morning, a quiet ache settling in the heart of John Harris. The sound of cicadas filled the air like an unsung anthem that only the few truly awake could appreciate. At 50 years old, John had found comfort in his predictable routine, tending to the garden, reading the same newspaper, and waving at familiar faces, a symphony of monotony that lulled him into a false sense of security. Yet something gnawed at him, a yearning for color in his monochrome existence that the fresh blooms outside his window could not satisfy. As he bent to prune the overgrown roses, their scent enveloped him, but even this once enjoyed fragrance now reminded him of the suffocating sameness of his days. He lost himself in the rhythm of snipping away dead buds and tending to the vibrant blooms, yet it all felt empty, unfulfilling. But just as he began to retreat into the comfort of his greenery, a glimmer of movement caught his eye, shattering the silence. There, in the adjacent yard, stood a figure that seemed to defy all logic. Tnie, a tall alien of surreal beauty, emerged into John's vision, her being shimmering beneath the morning sun. Her skin glowed with iridescent shades reminiscent of a twilight sky, while her emerald eyes sparkled like stars, twinkling with mysteries deep and unfathomable. She possessed delicate features that suggested grace and strength in equal measure, with long hair that flowed like silk, occasionally flickering with iridescent colors, as if expressing her mood through vibrant waves. "Who are you?" John's voice trembled slightly, an involuntary change of tone that betrayed both his awe and his genuine curiosity. "I am Tnie, from the planet Eliza," she replied, her voice melodic and warm, shifting the very air around them like a soothing caress. "I've just arrived." The subtle shift in the atmosphere sent a cascade of butterflies through John's stomach. For the first time in years, his heart raced, not from the fear of mundane tasks but from a newfound excitement, an exhilarating tension that buzzed like electricity in his veins. This interaction sparked a flame within him, igniting feelings he'd long buried beneath layers of routine and resignation. Little did he realize, Tnie's presence was just the beginning of a whirlwind he could never have anticipated. Their encounter ignited a series of strange events, tinged with otherworldly mystery. As the days unfolded, John found himself drawn to her. Every interaction was like adding vivid pigment to his faded canvas of life. Tnie shared stories of Eliza, a world rich in colors he could scarcely imagine, skies swirling with iridescent clouds, flora that sang with the wind, and creatures that glided through air thick with adventure. Yet while John marveled at her tales, a foreboding sensation began to brew in the background, a tension that hung like a fog, whispered about amongst the neighbors who soon began to take notice. In their minds, credibility balanced precariously on the edge of fear and curiosity, their thoughts treading the fine line between inviting intrigue and vehement denial. On that same fateful day, their banal suburban tranquility shattered as Mrs. Thompson, his elderly neighbor with a penchant for gossip and a talent for brewing trouble, came barreling over, her face alight with indignation. The arrival of Tnie sent ripples throughout the quaint suburban neighborhood, once tranquil and predictably dull. Days turned to weeks, yet the atmospheric tension thickened, a tightrope strung between the gravitational pull of fear and the unfamiliar allure of the extraordinary. Each morning, John Harris sat on the porch, his coffee going cold, captivated by Tnie and her curious ways, yet haunted by the murmurs echoing across his lawn. Tnie's garden, a tropical riot of colors that no one had previously dared to plant, thrived against the bleakness of the neighborhood's traditional landscapes. The neighborhood's defining manicured lawns stood starkly in contrast, much like the chiseled faces of ancient statues, cold and lacking the dynamic life thriving in her garden. Even the air felt alive when Tnie tended to her flora, as if every color pulsed with some inner glow. What had begun as fascination soon morphed into contempt. Days turned into gatherings behind closed curtains. John could almost hear the snide remarks and muttered curses attributed to the newcomer. Whispers crystallized into rumors. Was she dangerous? A witch from the stars? One afternoon, Mrs. Thompson, the elderly neighbor whose roses had turned pale next to Tnie's extravagant blossoms, stormed across the lawn like a whirlwind. "Your alien neighbor is ruining my roses," she bellowed, her frail hands clutching the remaining petals. Once a rich crimson, now a withering pink. The severity in her voice surged through John like a temperature drop, inviting unease. Taking a breath, he replied with the conviction of an ambassador caught in a tempest. I'm sure it's nothing intentional, Mrs. Thompson. Maybe we can talk to Tnie?" He glanced toward Tnie's yard, where her vibrant, throbbing plot spilled luminosity under the sun's embrace. Mrs. Thompson huffed off, leaving John with a knot of dread forming in his stomach as he watched Tnie linger at the edge of her garden, her gaze lost among the encroaching shadows of dusk. John felt a pang of isolation while he flitted through the warring emotions of obligation and admiration. "They fear the unknown," Tnie said, her voice a soft, melancholic melody laced with an understanding only she seemed to possess. Her emerald eyes sparkled with sadness, yet their intensity mirrored unyielding resolve. "And ignorance breeds hostility." John felt the enormity of her words settle on his chest, heavier than any burden he'd carried. That day, he recognized the chasm cleaving their worlds apart, even as Tnie's presence ignited colors he'd long forgotten. He noticed how her garden drew on the earth, not in a depleting manner, but as if coaxing beauty from the very ground beneath them, while his own world withered under the sun's unforgiving glare. As the days slipped away and yet the world outside grew increasingly hysterical, John found solace in the strange rhythms of Tnie's life. He became drawn to her tales of Eliza, her home planet, a realm alive with bioluminescence where flora sang and communities flourished as one. She painted pictures with her words, of landscapes where rivers wove through fields of lavender light, and creatures danced amid the iridescent canopies of foliage. And at night, he often caught himself pondering the ethics of it all. What was the cost of progress? Were they evolving simply by embracing the oddities of their existence, or were they dooming themselves to misunderstandings rooted deep in their cultural histories? Each time he turned to her, enveloped by the laughter pulsing in her presence, questions unfurled in his mind. To stand with Tnie was to tread a line drawn between human prejudice and the acceptance of difference. He sensed her dimensions, mystical yet tangible, a juxtaposition that sang in his blood and whispered from the very fabric of the universe. Spurred onward by the impending unease festering among the neighbors, John summoned courage from some deep well he had long thought dry. On an evening thick with humidity, when frustration buzzed like wasps in the air, he stepped across the boundary to gel the connection he had built, driven by an inexplicable force. "No crime occurs without intent," John proclaimed to Tnie one twilight, the both of them standing together in the luminous splendor of her garden filled with flowers that should not have existed. Splayed before them was a riotous bloom of alien colors, some effervescent greens, others a striking violet that set itself against the softening of the sky, both outshining the dull pastels of suburban life. "Your plants seem to thrive here, Tnie. But what does it mean for their kind?" Does it come at a cost? Tnie paused, letting his words resonate through her, the sympathy in her eyes morphing into something deeper, more profound. This area hangs in a delicate balance, John. My flora draws energy from the earth, and in doing so, it reconnects the potential within it, the energy it once held. Her voice, meanwhile, trembled like a feather caught in the wind. Would you deny the earth its power simply because it's different? John felt the weight of her gaze pierce through him. In this moment, they became co-conspirators. But beneath that camaraderie languished fear, not just of Tnie's impact on the environment, but also the impact on himself. The fear of emerging feelings gnawed at him, tugging him toward questions that could unravel everything he held close. What would it mean to associate himself openly with her? The neighbors who once greeted him with civil nods had begun to look through him, casting judgment under the cover of their closed doors and shuttered windows. Would he become a target for their resentment? A harbinger of the unknown they so thoroughly abhorred? Maybe we could, he hesitated. Engage with them? Help them understand? Tnie's eyes widened, reflecting galaxies fastened with shimmering stars. Understanding breeds acceptance. Acceptance breeds unity. Would you ally with me to bridge this divide? John's pulse quickened. Such ambitions danced on the edge of a taut thread, balanced precariously between total acceptance and visceral rejection, much like Tnie herself. As days unveiled more beauty, his determination swelled like the tides, ready to crash against the shorelessness of fear. However, fate dealt its cards in unseen ways, knocking at the door when he least expected it. The ensuing days were filled with unexpected phenomena, the gnarled tree roots twisting extravagantly through man-made structures. Colors bled vibrant hues across gray concrete, transforming the dull into a spectacle. Mysterious flowers sprouted in spontaneous configurations, mesmerizing and seemingly sentient. The pulsing life coalescing around Tnie drew an array of attention, shifting murmurs into palpable tension throughout the neighborhood. Each step into the occult grandeur amplified his mounting apprehensions. As the sun set beyond the horizon, casting a celestial glow across the quaint suburban neighborhood, John found himself wandering the familiar paths of his yard, lost in thought. Tnie's presence had opened a door to a world he had only dreamed of, a realm where colors sang and emotions danced like ethereal starlight. Yet with every smile they exchanged and every moment of laughter they shared, an undeniable tension coiled in the air between them. The weight of Tnie's secret loomed like a storm cloud, threatening to overshadow their blossoming connection. One evening, John invited Tnie to his porch, the warm glow of the lights wrapping around them like the embrace of an old friend. They sat side by side, the sweet fragrance of blooming roses mingling with Tnie's own floral scent, a delightful blend of earthly flora and her native Eliza's exotic blossoms. Yet beneath the tranquil surface of their surroundings lay an undercurrent of unresolved conflict, a tension that crackled like electricity in the air. It was then that Tnie turned to him, her emerald eyes reflecting something deeper: fear, vulnerability, and a flicker of hope. I must choose a partner before my powers become unstable, she confessed, her voice trembling with an unusual gravity. What do you mean? John felt his heart drop. The mere thought of losing her made cold tendrils of dread curl around his insides. Tnie, you're powerful. You don't need. No, she interrupted softly, shaking her head. It's not about necessity in the way you think. John sensed the change in her energy. Something about her had shifted. He leaned forward, his curiosity piqued, as he urged her to elaborate. In my culture, the joining of partners is not simply a romantic bond, it's a fusion of energies. Without that union, the potential within me becomes volatile. If I wait too long, I risk losing my ability to control it. It could lead to chaos, both in my world and yours, Tnie explained, her voice steady yet tinged with apprehension. John grappled with her revelation. The concept of an emotional and energy-based union was foreign to him, yet it resonated with a haunting familiarity. This wasn't merely about their connection. It was about the balance of life itself, a situation that reflected the delicate synergy between their two worlds. But could he really bear the burden of such an immense choice? As days turned into a swirling deluge of vivid experiences, strange occurrences began to stir in the neighborhood. Flowers blossomed at incongruous times, their colors intensified to hues that defied earthly logic. Neighbors watched with quizzical expressions, half suspicious and half intrigued, as the once dull streets pulsed with strange alien vibrancy. Vivid florals blooming under the warm sun, while others withered in shadow, uncertain of what lay ahead. In moments of quiet reflection with Tnie, as they tended to her flourishing garden, another canvas splashed with alien aesthetics, John's apprehensions battled his desire to accept this new reality. Was he prepared to fuse his life with the extraordinary depths of Tnie's existence? The questions swirled in his mind like leaves caught in a whirlwind, clashing against the stark remnants of his conventional life. One night, enveloped by the cool embrace of the evening air, Tnie revealed more about her life and the customs of her home planet, Eliza. Every ritual in my culture is a dance with the cosmos, a celebration of the energies that bind us all together. Without partners, we risk losing the harmony that sustains us, she shared. John was captivated by the intensity of her belief, a belief that felt more profound than anything he had ever experienced. But what if I can't? What if our worlds are too different, Tnie? The thought of merging with your energies, it terrifies me, he replied honestly. He felt a storm brewing at the edge of his consciousness, an emotional tempest that threatened to burst forth. Tnie's gaze softened, piercing through the fog of his uncertainty. Fear is a dance partner in life, John. It can lead you into darkness or toward illumination. In my world, choosing to join is a sacred act. It's a leap of faith into the vast unknown, and it strengthens both of our beings. The room filled with silence, the weight of her words resting heavy between them. There was beauty in her conviction, yet John couldn't shake off the dissonance in his heart. He wasn't merely considering a relationship. He was about to tether his very essence to the rhythms of another world, one teetering on the edge of emotional stability. He glanced outside, where the moon illuminated the neighborhood with a silver sheen, casting shadows that danced like whispers amongst the trees. The familiar sights of his yard morphed into something surreal, and for the first time, he felt like a stranger in his own life. One crisp evening, wrapped in uncertainty, John witnessed a luminous spectacle in Tnie's otherworldly garden. Spirals of light emerged from the flowers, dancing upwards like joyful specters, enchanting yet unsettling. They wove an intricate tapestry over his head, celestial formations pulsating like living constellations. Each burst of light seemed to pulse with emotion, beckoning him to unravel its secret. At that moment, the ethereal beauty of the moment clashed with his dread, igniting a fierce desire to act. The urge swelled within him. That night, guided by the rhythms of an alien world and the echo of Tnie's spirit, he approached her once more, the tension thickening as he stepped into her tranquil garden. I want to understand the true depth of this connection, he stated, determination infused in his voice as he met her emerald gaze. For a fleeting heartbeat, silence enveloped them, and John felt the breath of the universe sigh between them. Are you ready? Tnie asked, her voice both fragile and fierce. Yes, he breathed, surrendering to the moment. And from there, the air pulsed with energy as Tnie reached for him, her fingers brushing against his skin, a fleeting touch that ignited his senses and expunged any remnants of doubt. But just as he began to embrace this new reality, an unexpected jolt of hesitation coursed through him. Would he be able to handle the consequences of this choice as they intertwined their destinies? What shadows would this light cast? Even as their souls began to unfurl like rare flowers in the moonlight, the echoes of John's life as he knew it lingered, a whisper of uncertainty that refused to silence. With every sunrise came the prospect of boundless adventure, yet also the burden of an unsolved mystery that wound tighter around John's heart, foreshadowing a storm yet to break. The days following Tnie's declaration were a whirlwind of colors and emotions, the neighborhood transformed into an uncharted territory of energy and confusion. John's heart raced, not just from the thrill of a budding relationship but from the underlying tension of Tnie's dilemma. The ethereal flora she had introduced with her arrival pulsated vibrantly, but beneath this chaos lay an unsettling undertone. The community's unease toward their union was mounting. As the sun began its descent, casting a molten glow across the skies, John stood beside Tnie in her garden, now a riotous amalgam of luminescent flowers and vine-like tendrils that shimmered in the fading light. He felt like an intruder in a mystical realm, one that was wondrous yet intimidating. "What would happen if I say yes?" he whispered, his voice barely slicing through the serenity of the evening. Tnie turned to him, her emerald eyes reflecting the scarlet hues enveloping them. "If you choose to unite with me, we may just stabilize my powers. We would create a new balance. But this world, your world, may never look the same again." Her words lingered in the air, heavy with possibility and threat. John studied her, a tapestry of contradictions woven into her magnificent form. The radiance emanating from her skin refracted the dying light, and he thought of her home on Eliza, a vibrant planet with swirling nebulae and rich ecosystems, a universe far removed from the mundane confines of his reality. A space where no one batted an eye at her miraculous powers, where her beauty was not a subject of gossip but an accepted part of existence. But here, in the familiar neighborhood, he felt the weight of ethics cut deeply into his conscience. Could he abandon his humanity to embrace divine chaos? Tnie's powers were significant, a spark of energy caught between two souls. What would it mean for his neighbors, who already regarded her with suspicion? Was he ready to become a catalyst for a transformation that could disrupt the very fabric of his life, and the lives of those around him? As these thoughts swirled, the alien flora around him whispered softly in the evening breeze, colors shifting with an urgency that mirrored his own feelings. Tnie reached out, her fingers brushing against his hand, sending a surge of emotions cascading through him like electrical currents. He thought of the isolation he had felt for so long, the longing for connection that transcended the ordinary. What if embracing Tnie meant embracing a new version of himself? Wasn't that worth risking everything, including the stability of the world he knew? "I need to think," John finally managed, making his way to the edge of her garden, still captivated but tormented by conflicting emotions. "Thinking is a luxury I can no longer afford," Tnie replied softly, her voice tinged with an urgency that tugged at his heart. "Each hesitation deepens the turmoil within my essence." Slowly, night fell, and a canopy of stars emerged, twinkling like cosmic witnesses to their burgeoning relationship. Tnie's garden glowed subtly, lights flickering like sparks of life amid the darkness. As he gazed upward, John pondered the broader implications of his potential decision. Was uniting with Tnie a personal choice, or was he exploiting her vulnerability for his emotional comfort? Suddenly, a deep tremor shook the ground beneath them. Tnie stiffened, her breath hitching as she focused intently on the vibrations. "It's happening," she said, mounting distress accelerating in her voice. "That instability I spoke of, the rift between our worlds, is growing wider." The flowers retreated slightly, their luminescence dimming as if reflecting her distress. John took a deep breath, feeling the gravity of the situation tighten around them. "What do we do?" he asked, his heart racing as he surveyed the alien flora, trembling in anticipation. Time felt as if it were slipping through his fingers like grains of sand. "We must act swiftly," Tnie exclaimed, her voice stealing the tension from the atmosphere. "Join with me now, or the imbalance may consume us both." John hesitated, grappling with the magnitude of her declaration and the chaos surrounding them. This wasn't just about love, it was about the universe itself. The stakes had risen exponentially. The thought of sealing their fates with a kiss filled him with an exhilarating terror. Would he merely be a pawn in a game that was far beyond his comprehension? Gathering his courage, he stepped closer to Tnie, their proximity reigniting the heat that sparked between them. The garden, once a sanctuary, now felt like a battleground, their emotions at war with the very fundamental ethics of their choices. "What is it that binds us together, Tnie?" he asked, seeking clarity in the collision of worlds. She gazed into his eyes, a glimmer of hope surfacing amidst the stormy depths. "It is the undying hunger for connection," Tnie replied, "the desire to know and to be known. We are entangled in threads of fate, interwoven through cosmic strands." In that moment, the atmosphere shifted. Reality illuminated itself through profound vibrations, and John felt something bloom within his chest. But as he readied himself to finally concede to the pull of destiny, his heart whispering yes, he suddenly froze. Ethically, this felt overwhelming. What might become of his neighbors, who lived in fear of the unknown? His decision felt less like an act of love and more like a commission of chaos. "John," Tnie implored, sensing his turmoil, "you must choose now. The time for hesitation is over." The tremors beneath them escalated, the alien garden beginning to warp as if reality itself were unraveling. John felt the pull of her intensity in his bones, the storm of emotions threatening to shake confirmation from him. His connection with her sparkled like stars caught in the fabric of space. But as he looked around at the flowers dimming, he knew their lives, his, Tnie's, and even those of his neighbors, were now intertwined, caught in ripples that extended beyond their comprehension. His heart was caught in a tempest of uncertainty. Would bringing Tnie's vibrant presence into the very heart of his mundane world usher forth destruction, or would it ignite a catharsis that could change everything? The weight of the unknown pressed down on him, drilling through the surface of time and space. "John," Tnie's voice pierced through the chaos, the urgency echoing with a crystalline clarity. "Please." In that moment, surrounded by the lush, otherworldly beauty of Tnie's garden, where uncertainty met wonder, John felt the potential splendor of their connection. But as the ground quaked beneath their feet, he was left teetering at the edge of an abyss, torn between tethering himself to a future filled with dazzling enigma and the shadows of fear that lurked in his mind. As dawn broke over the quiet suburban neighborhood, the world outside was bathed in a golden light that danced upon the dewy grass, painting everything in shades of hope and possibility. Inside the Harris household, however, a different kind of luminosity was already at work, illuminating hearts and minds with the promise of a new beginning. John Harris stood transfixed, his blue eyes riveted on the soft bundle in his arms, a miracle stitched together by the universe itself. Aurora, the daughter of an ordinary man and an extraordinary alien, squirmed gently, the delicate tendrils of her golden hair shimmering like sunlight through stained glass. "Just look at her," Tnie murmured beside him, her voice a melodious blend of wonder and pride. Her own emerald eyes sparkled with an uncanny brilliance, reflecting the duality of their creation. "She is perfect in every way." John felt a swell of emotions surge up in him, choking him with awe and joy. "She really is. This feels unreal," he responded, his voice quavering. "I still can't believe we did this. That I did this." Tnie reached out, brushing her fingers delicately against his arm, her touch sending small shivers of warmth coursing through him. "You are part of her as much as I am," she assured him softly. "In every heartbeat, every breath, she carries the spirit of both our worlds." He looked down at Aurora, whose tiny fingers extended into the vast unknown, as if already grasping the mysteries of the cosmos. It was true. This life they created embodied the richness of their converging destinies. Yet, as he savored the warmth of her presence, an undercurrent of uncertainty coursed through him. The universe, after all, was vast and filled with wonders and dangers. As days turned to weeks, John and Tnie navigated the whirlpool of new parental challenges while fostering the extraordinary abilities that began to manifest in Aurora. There were evenings when Tnie would teach their daughter the gentle harmonies of Eliza, whereby a simple lullaby could send acorn seeds sprouting in synchrony, twisting elegantly under the moonlight. How is it that she can do all these things? John marveled one evening, watching the tiny sprouts take shape in the garden, blooming with vibrant hues that illuminated the night. "Her essence is still deriving from both realms," Tnie explained, her eyes reflecting the shimmering plants. "Yet, there may be a time when she must choose her path, whether to embrace her Elysian heritage fully or find her own path, one that may intertwine with the humans she will grow up among." Those words hung in the air like an unfinished melody, igniting a simmering anxiety deep within John. He couldn't ignore the potential struggles their daughter might face, a choice between two worlds, two identities. A flicker of fear danced within him, swirling like galaxies anew. What happens if she chooses her powers over other things? He asked carefully, his heart heavy with the weight of uncertainty. Tnie's expression hardened, a flicker of sadness flashing across her features. "There are factions on Eliza who would see her as a means to an end, to wield her abilities for their own gain. The moment she steps into her power, they will take notice. We must be vigilant." John swallowed hard, piecing together the possibilities of conflict and chaos that could descend upon their family. "We'll protect her. I won't let anyone take her from us," he vowed, his voice stronger. As Aurora grew, so did her gifts, but the wonders of her laughter often cloaked the undercurrent of danger. On her third birthday, a cosmic event known as the Eventide Shift loomed on the horizon, a cosmic phenomenon that reinforced the importance of her identity. Under the violet skies, bathed in shimmering twilight, John and Tnie prepared for a celebration filled with hope. As friends and neighbors gathered, glimmers of excitement fluttered around them like moths to a flame. Colorful decorations adorned the yard, a delightful chaos of shared cultures blending seamlessly into the atmosphere, human and alien laughter echoing in harmonious union. Meanwhile, Tnie sensed a subtle thrill coursing through the air. "John," she whispered, leaning a little closer. "I feel a change coming. The Eventide Shift will unearth more than celebrations. It opens doors that may not all lead to joy." "What do you mean?" he asked, his heart racing. "Those who seek power often take advantage of such rare celestial occurrences. Factions that covet our child's abilities may rise again. We must remain vigilant tonight." As the festivities peaked, the sky erupted in a brilliant display of colors, mesmerizing everyone around. Aurora clapped her small hands, eyes wide with wonder, absorbing the brilliance, oblivious to the lurking shadows. John tightened his grip around her, feeling the pulse of fatherly protectiveness spring to life. Suddenly, a chilling hum reverberated through the ground. A wave of dark energy crashed through the joyous atmosphere. Gasps erupted from those in attendance as a crackling voice reached out, blending sinister intentions with illuminating power. "Little girl of many worlds, the time has come." The figure emerged, a tall being cloaked in ethereal darkness, its features obscured yet familiar enough to send tingling waves of dread coursing through John's veins. The apparition fixed its gaze upon Aurora, who, despite the chaos, stood steadfast. "Who are you?" John shouted, his voice breaking the tension, bravery igniting within him. The being laughed, a sound filled with both malice and wisdom. "I seek the potential of your child. She is destined for greatness beyond your understanding, yet you smother her light with human fears." Tnie stepped protectively in front of Aurora, her stance firm. "You stay away from her. She belongs to neither you nor your twisted ambitions. Guardians come in many shapes, Tnie, but none have the power she holds," the figure continued, undeterred. "Her essence calls to the chaos of the universe. Will you teach her to embrace this darkness, or will you drive her away?" With each word, John's heart sank under the weight of those choices. "We will never allow you to take her," John declared, a fiery determination propelling him forward. The being merely smiled, a sly grin that stirred something primal within John. "Let go of your human limitations. Join me, and together we can unlock powers beyond your dreams." "No," Tnie interjected, her voice rising with an iridescent strength. "Her future is not to be forfeit to the likes of you." A dazzling energy surged through Aurora, the child caught between the gravity of darkness and the light of her parents, her eyes shimmering with an otherworldly glow. The atmosphere thickened with tension, yet her smile remained radiant, unyielding. As if sensing the intensity, Aurora stretched out her tiny hands, reaching toward the being, her fingers merging the two energies into a kaleidoscope of possibility. What came next was a shimmering display of color that enveloped them, free from fear yet filled with purpose. "Feel her. She is both light and shadow," the being murmured, their voice softened, nearly wistful. "In her lies the power to balance the cosmos. Will you guide her?" In that moment, John realized the deeper truth. The choice for Aurora was not between light and dark, but embracing her complexities, carving out her own identity amidst chaos. "We will teach her to wield both with wisdom," John declared, finally understanding the path ahead. "Together, we'll face whatever challenges arise." And then, with a sudden shift, the being dissipated into the cosmic ether, leaving behind a fateful whisper, "May the stars guide you." The celebration around them resumed as if the dark threat had never existed, laughter and colors swirling together once more, but John and Tnie knew that their journey had only just begun. As the night descended into soft hues of silence, a serene understanding settled among the three of them. Later that night, with Aurora safely nestled in her crib and the glow of the cosmos pulsing softly outside, John turned to Tnie. "We will do this together, both human and Eliza. We'll learn, grow, and ensure Aurora finds her own way through the resonating symphony of the universe." Tnie smiled, wrapping her arms around him, her warmth mingling with the chill of uncertainty that still lingered. "We stand united, in defiance of both chaos and order. As long as we remain together, I believe we can face anything." Their journey was filled with promise and peril, a delicate dance between worlds, nurturing a child destined for greatness against the backdrop of everything they had achieved together. A living reminder that love transcends even the most profound darkness. As dawn painted the horizon once more, hope and uncertainty mingled freely, reflecting that life was not merely about choices but embracing the beautiful chaos woven into their existence. Colorful expectations flared brightly, while shadows lingered just out of reach, mysteries ready to be explored. It was not an end, but rather a beginning, one where every decision they made echoed the rhythm of the cosmos, relentlessly urging them forward into the unknown. Only together could they discover the infinite wonders waiting just beyond their grasp. If you liked this story based on real events, subscribe to our channel and don't forget to like it. Here you can dive into a different reality every day, where anything can happen. Comment below what kind of story you would like to hear here. Thank you very much for your attention. We are the Sci-Fi family.